Mexico, a country rich in history, tradition, and culture. Like every culture, Mexico has its own set of myths and legends rooted in the fears of the populace. Today, we take a look at 5 of the most famous urban legends from Mexican folklore. El Cucuy, also known as El Coco or El Cuco, is Mexico's version of the boogeyman, the monster hiding under your bed or in your closet. This legend is passed down through word of mouth by parents scaring their children into obedience by telling them that El Cucuy will take them away if they misbehave. El Cucuy is usually described as a small hairy creature with big bat ears, glowing red eyes, and razor-sharp teeth. But it's not the way he looks that scares children the most, but what he does. El Cucuy can take the shape of any shadow, silently watching, waiting for his chance to pounce on misbehaving children, who he will then either kidnap, never to return, or devour on the spot. There's even a famous lullaby used by parents in reference to this.
Oh, yes.
Legend says that men traveling alone on the road from Mexico City to Cuernavaca will come across a crimson-red car known as El Carro de las Brujas, or the Carriage of the Witches. The car usually contains between 2 to 5 beautiful women who will flirt and entice the man into joining them inside the car, telling him how much he'll be missing out on if he doesn't go with them. The man will be found dead on the side of the road a few days later, his bruised and beaten body covered with cuts and arcane symbols. He has been sacrificed like an animal in a satanic ritual, with his heart sometimes cut open or missing entirely. It's also said that the crimson color of the car comes from the blood of the victims. La Mujer Lechuza, or simply La Lechuza, is usually an old witch who has sold her soul to the devil in order to gain her power to turn herself into a monstrous bird the size of a human being, though in some versions she turns into a creature with the body of a bird but the head of the old woman, similar to harpies in Greek mythology. La Lechuza usually only comes out at dusk or after nightfall, and many people in Mexico claim to have seen lechuzas flying high overhead, outlined against the moon at night. La Lechuza preys on people who she thinks have done her wrong, or steals their children to use in her rituals. When she finds her target, she will perch out of sight, somewhere she can't be easily seen, and will then make either strange whistles or a sound similar to an infant crying in order to draw her victim out, swooping down on anyone who attempts to investigate the sound. In some versions of the story, La Lechuza is the spirit of a witch who was murdered by locals, whose spirit returns in the form of the monstrous bird in order to terrorize her killers and get revenge. In Chiapas, Mexico's southernmost state, La Mala Hora, also known as La Malora or La Malogra, is a well-known tale about an evil spirit or demon that wanders lonely roads after midnight to attack those who walk alone. It usually appears as a beautiful long-haired woman wearing white, although there have been accounts of a more aggressive form of it wearing black. Men who encounter her are so enamored with her that they follow her mindlessly, soon losing their sense of direction and being led over the edge of a ravine. Those lucky enough to notice that this woman floats rather than walks, or that her toes are backwards, have been the ones to live to tell the tale of their encounter with La Mala Hora. In northern Mexico, in the city of Monterrey, there is a version of this legend where La Mala Hora appears as a woman with the face like a horse that runs alongside your car. In this version of the legend, the woman is an omen of death, and shortly after seeing her, you or someone you love will die very suddenly, usually around midnight. North of the border, in the state of New Mexico, there exist 2 more versions of this legend. The classic version tells of La Malogra appearing as a large black mass, almost as if it's made of wool, constantly expanding and contracting and changing shape before driving its victim insane as they stood paralyzed in place. It then attacks suddenly, enveloping the victim and suffocating them on the side of the road, where they will be found lifeless the next morning. The more modern New Mexican version of the tale is similar to the version in Monterrey, where the woman appears before a traveler as an omen of death, before the woman, or witch in this version, appears dressed in black with bright red eyes, horrible teeth, and unkempt hair, and tries to claw her way into the victim's car. One of, if not the most prevalent Mexican urban legend is the story of La Llorona. Many variations of this tale exist, but all of them are about a beautiful woman named Maria. In one version of the story, Maria is a beautiful but poor woman who spends her nights entertaining the men of her village because she enjoys the attention and adoration she receives from them. However, she has 2 small children who make it difficult for her to be out all night, and she often leaves them home alone to spend her nights with a number of men. One day, her 2 children are found drowned in a river. In some versions, they drown because of her neglect, and in others, she herself drowns her children. In another version of the tale, Maria is a poor woman who marries a rich man who comes to her town and has 2 children with him. After having their kids, she notices he's changed and pays her less and less attention, even leaving her alone with the kids for months on end, only coming home from time to time to spend time with the kids, but never her. One evening, as Maria walks down a road by the river with her 2 children, her husband drives by in a carriage with a younger, richer woman beside him. He stops and talks to the children, ignoring Maria, and then continues to drive the carriage down the road, never looking back. Seeing her husband with the younger woman, Maria is enraged, and in her anger, drowns the children in the river. All versions of the legend generally end the same. She soon realizes what she's done and that her children are now dead. Overcome with grief, she throws herself in the river and drowns herself as well. She arrives at the gates of heaven and is asked the whereabouts of her children and is not permitted to enter the afterlife until she has found them. Maria is forced to wander the earth for all eternity, searching in vain for her drowned children, with her constant weeping and calling out for her children, giving her the name La Llorona.